This newsreel is being brought to you by the Robertson County Funeral Home. A home in Millersville is almost a complete loss after a fire that broke out around noon on Saturday. The home is located on Cartwright Parkway in Millersville, and at the time of the fire, there was a resident and the family dog in the house. As we understand it, the gentleman that was home has been dealing with some health issues and didn't hear the fire alarm. But luckily for him and the dog, a couple of neighbors stepped in, and I think we have ourselves a couple of heroes.
That guy's very lucky that neighbor was there.
Tell me what happened.
I was in the house and started smelling smoke. Walked out on the deck to see what was going on. Saw the back side of the house on fire. Came running out of the house. Him and I both got to the front door about the same time. I went in the house and woke Tom up. Had to scream at him 3 or 4 times. The house was full of smoke. Got him out of the house. And you got the dog.
I got the dog. We had tried to go. I was standing in the driveway, right there in the driveway, and I noticed the smoke, and I thought maybe Tommy was burning something in the backyard. And then I kind of got a plastic smell, and my buddy I was standing with, he said, "That house is on fire." And I said, "Well, I'm calling 911, and let's go," because I knew Tommy was home. I had seen him earlier, and when I got off the 911 phone call was when she came running out of her house. Like she said, we hit the front door at about the same time. We tried to go around the back and see what we could see, and you couldn't get in the gate on the back. And then when she went back in, she went out the back door, and the fire and the smoke was so bad then that I just grabbed the dog out of the house and I ran out the front door, and then they were in the backyard out.
While you were in there, did you see flames?
When I opened the back door, the whole back door was on fire. All the way around the back door was on fire, and the back of the house was on fire. But you couldn't see the flames really for, I would say, from the time I called 911 till they started spraying water on the house was 16 minutes.
That's pretty fast.
Which I thought was pretty good. But after I called 911, it probably wasn't 5 or 6 minutes later that flames were coming out of the roof.
It was just the dog and the gentleman in the house?
That's right. Everybody else was out.
Yeah.
They were out in front or just
No,
not home?
They were gone.
They were gone.
They had gone shopping or something.
When you pulled the gentleman out, what was his condition? Did he have some smoke inhalation?
I was able to get him awake, and he got up and left the house on his own.
Yeah, he
and
was
we
fine.
Both went to the backyard.
He didn't seem to be suffering any smoke inhalation?
No. I don't think it had gotten down low enough to him yet because he was laying in the bed.
Well, he must be and his family must be very grateful to you this evening.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, smoke is a pretty dangerous thing. I mean, they say just get out because you don't know how it's going to...
As soon as you went in the house, you had to get down to get out of the smoke to get through the house.
How low was it, the smoke?
I would say probably, I was about here on me.
Yeah.
Something right
So
in
he
there.
was laying down, so he was underneath that.
Yeah.
And
so we tried to put it out with the water hose on the back side of the house. I got it out around the door and everything. The back side of the house.
Garden hose?
Yeah, with the water hose. And about this time I did, I looked up because I was thinking, okay, I've
was
got it
already
under
coming out of the
control.
roof vents.
Yeah, it was coming. The flames were coming out of the roof vents. And
So
it
it
was
had snuck in the attic on you.
That's
right.
Yeah, it had slipped up, so it took over quick.
Well, I guess you have if you didn't know your neighbor, I guess you know them now.
Yeah, we knew him.
We knew him before.
Yeah,
we knew him before.
Well, you're heroes. Congratulations.
Thank you.
About 12:30 today, Millersville Fire Department responded to what we appeared to thought was going to be a smell of smoke or a smoke investigation. Turned out to be a fully involved structure fire. From what we gathered was the neighbor had seen some smoke, called the fire department, come back, knocked on the house, and went in and got the neighbor actually out. She said the house was full of smoke when she went in and woke the neighbor up. He was still asleep. Smoke alarms went off, but it didn't wake him up, and she got him up and got him and the dog out of the house. Like I say, when the firefighters arrived, the fire already had a good headway on them. That's why there's as much damage as it is. It all depends on when we get calls. When we got the calls, it's already been burning for a while, and that's why it had extensive damage. It was already flames coming through the roof upon the firefighters' arrivals.
You had a firefighter who was injured. How did that happen?
Had a firefighter injured. He was just got up on top, the edge of the roof. It was still energized. It's a weekend, and we have to wait for NES a lot of times to get out to pull the power. We had the box off, but somehow or another it still got energized, and it caused him to get shocked. And when it did, it caused him. He tried to get back on the ladder, and he fell from the roof, fell on his back. He was transported to Skyline by Sumner County Medic Unit 5, but they evaluated him. Everything looks pretty good, and they released him. He's back at home now.
Is the woman that pulled the gentleman out of the house, is she a hero?
I do believe so. The way she described and the much fires I've seen on some videos of people that was there, I'm going to tell you, if it was smoky like she said it was inside, she's lucky that we didn't have 2 victims. When it's that much smoke, you can't breathe. So even with her trying to go in, she is a hero. But yet on the other hand, she's very lucky too, because she could have been overcome by the smoke and we could have had 2 victims. But had she not did what she did, there's a good chance we could have been pulling a victim out of that fire.
Isn't it true that even though there's a smoke line and you can duck your head below it, that still there could be no oxygen in that clear space below?
It still very well could be very dangerous. Even as it gets low, it's still hard to breathe. You know, that's why we train our guys to go in. It's also heat up here. When you're up here, it's not just the smoke as bad, it's the heat itself. You know, we train our guys not to enter in any type of fire without apparatus on, breathing apparatus, SCBA. So she's very lucky. But yes, I'd classify her as a hero myself. That guy's very lucky that neighbor was there.
As far as the cause of the fire, it looks like it's going to be a cigarette. That's what the fire chief said he's going to put in his report. He told us that the family said they didn't smoke in the house and smoked on the back patio, which seems to be the starting point of the fire. And the fire is still under investigation, and they could change their mind later. If that happens, we'll let you know. But he theorizes that though they were careful with cigarette butts, somehow an ember, a cigarette butt or something ended up against the house and worked its way up the wall and eventually finding its way into the attic. Maybe a process that took almost an hour. Once it found the attic, of course, it had lots of oxygen, and that's when the fire took off. A very sad and I'm sure frustrating under the circumstances loss for a family that was apparently in some of the final stages with some of the interior parts of the house. But they'll be starting that process all over again. As we understand it, there were a total of 4 people living in the home, 2 adults and 2 children, and they'll be staying with family while they rebuild the house. The good news here is that this is a report of a structure fire. I'm not reporting on a fatality or someone in a critical burn unit, and that's all due to the actions of a couple of brave neighbors. This has been Jim Ball reporting for Smoky Barn News in Millersville. The Robertson County Funeral Home has been serving families for a quarter century. When it's time to celebrate and remember, to honor in loving memory, the Robertson County Funeral Home.